Every year, on a dusty fairground in Bulgaria, families gather not to sell goods, but to bargain for brides. Girls as young as 16 arrive in glittering dresses, while men whisper in the shadows, negotiating prices for their futures. To outsiders, it looks like an ancient market, shocking, strange, even cruel. But for the Roma Calderash, it is tradition, survival, and identity. Behind the music and the laughter lies a world where honor costs money, and choice is often a luxury. This is the secret story of the Roma bride market. In the southeast of Bulgaria lies the small town of Tvarditsa, a quiet settlement of barely 1,000 inhabitants. Life here seems ordinary at first glance, with narrow streets, simple houses, and families go about their daily routines. But beneath the surface lies a tradition both controversial and deeply rooted, a custom that shapes the destiny of young women from an early age. This is where 21-year-old Maria lives with her parents and 2 siblings. Maria is not just any young woman from Bulgaria. She belongs to a very specific Roma subgroup, known as the Calderash or tinsmiths. Within the Roma population, which numbers in hundreds of thousands across Bulgaria, the Calderash form a small yet distinct community of around 18,000 people. For them, marriage is not merely a personal choice. It is a transaction, a ritual, and in many cases, the defining moment of a woman's life. Maria's family knows that her time is approaching. Each year, the Calderash gather for what is known as the bride market, a unique and controversial event where young women are presented before potential husbands. Here, parents and relatives negotiate dowries, appearances are judged, and sometimes lifelong unions are arranged in just a few conversations. Maria has been preparing for this moment for months. Like every young woman of her community, she must wear something new to the market, something that signals her family's respect for tradition and their ability to provide. This year, her parents are absent, staying with relatives after the birth of a grandchild. So Maria's Uncle Mitko and Aunt Rositza take on the responsibility of accompanying her. Their son, Tanny, only 17, will also attend, not just as a bystander, but as a young man hoping to catch sight of his future bride. The atmosphere in the household is one of nervous excitement. Dresses are tried on, shoes are debated, and Maria's uncertainty about her appearance mixes with her anticipation for what lies ahead. For her, the bride market represents one of the only opportunities to meet young men. In everyday life, strict rules prevent her from socializing freely. Like most Calderash families, Maria's parents are protective to the point of control. They fear that even the smallest step outside tradition, such as going out to a disco without permission, could tarnish her reputation. Virginity before marriage is not only valued, it is demanded. A girl who loses it outside wedlock may never marry within the clan. Maria has already achieved something unusual for a Roma girl. She completed her school-leaving certificate at 16. Many of her peers never finished school. Yet despite her education, her freedom remains limited. She lives under the authority of her parents, and one day, that authority will pass to her husband. In her own words, she longs to be modern, to live as other young women do. But tradition presses down on her life with unyielding force. Meanwhile, her cousin Tanny looks forward to the same event from a very different perspective. As the only son in his family, he carries both privilege and responsibility. He too wants to be modern. He chats with friends on Facebook, speaks with girls online, and enjoys music and fashion like any teenager. But when it comes to marriage, his path is already set. As the heir of his household, he cannot marry outside the Calderash. His bride must come from within the community. And for her, his parents will negotiate a price. For men like Tanny, tradition offers limited choices, but far more freedom than it does for women like Maria. The Calderash Roma are often described as a group torn between past and present. For generations, their ancestors traveled across Bulgaria, repairing copper pots and pans, making a modest living from their tinsmith trade. Over time, many have settled in permanent houses and taken modern jobs. But the echoes of the past remain. Cars parked proudly in front of houses, often German-made, symbolize prosperity. Modern clothing, smartphones, and social media signal change. Yet when it comes to marriage, customs remain rigid. Unions must stay within the clan, and dowries must be paid. The price of a bride ranges widely. It may be as little as 1,000 euros or as high as 10,000. Beauty, reputation, and family standing all play a role. The prettier the girl, the higher the price her parents may demand. But dowry is not just about money. It is also about respect. A high dowry shows that a girl is valued and that her family's honor is intact. As the bride market approaches, Tanny and his parents shop for new clothes as well. Even for men, appearances matter. New outfits must be purchased each year to demonstrate prosperity, and tradition demands fresh clothing for the event. For women like Maria, it is even more important. Every year, she must present herself in a new dress, carefully chosen to highlight her beauty. The family breakfast together under the veranda, preparing for the days ahead. Conversations drift from tradition to modern life, from memories of arranged marriages decades ago to the ways in which young people now meet online. Maria listens quietly, caught between the weight of expectation and her own unspoken dreams. For her, the bride market is both an opportunity and a cage. It may bring her a wealthy husband, security, and social approval, but it also marks the end of her independence. Small as it may be, she will move from her parents' authority to her husband's. Her choices, her future, and her freedom will be shaped not by her own desires, but by the customs of her people. And yet, for Maria and many girls like her, the bride market is also a chance to step briefly into the spotlight, to be admired, to feel noticed. Even if her destiny is already written, the fair gives her the illusion of agency, the hope that perhaps she might at least choose which cage she enters. The day of the bride market arrives. For the Kalderash, this is no ordinary gathering. It is a ritual that binds the past with the present. Families travel from across Bulgaria, some coming in convoys of cars decorated with ribbons and shining chrome, each vehicle polished to reflect prosperity. The men drive with pride, playing loud Roma music on the speakers, while women carry boxes of clothing, jewelry, and gifts. For 1 weekend each year, the dusty fairground transforms into a stage where beauty, honor, and wealth are put on display. Maria's household is no exception. She wears a brand new dress, chosen carefully by her Aunt Rositza. It is colorful, elegant, and slightly extravagant, not just to flatter Maria, but to signal to potential suitors that her family values her and can provide for her. The dress is paired with shiny new shoes, the cost of which weighs heavily on her family's budget. But appearances here are more than vanity. They are currency. A family that fails to present their daughter well risks not only lowering her value, but also losing face within the clan. The fairground buzzes with energy. Music blares from speakers, young men swagger in their newest outfits, and girls cluster together in small groups, whispering and giggling, their eyes darting nervously toward the boys who circle like watchful hawks. Parents walk alongside their children, scanning the crowd with sharp, assessing eyes. Every handshake, every glance, every smile carries meaning. Here, reputation and first impressions matter more than anything. Maria feels the weight of every look. Some boys glance at her shyly, others boldly. She blushes under the attention, torn between pride and unease. This is perhaps the only time she can interact so openly with men outside her family, yet she knows every move will be judged, every smile interpreted. The bride market is not a place for freedom. It is a theater of negotiation, where every gesture is scrutinized by elders, cousins, and neighbors. Tanny, her cousin, stands with a group of friends, scanning the crowd with excitement. For him, the event feels like a mix between a festival and a hunt. He knows that one day soon, he too must choose a bride. His parents watch him carefully, whispering among themselves about which families are present, which girls look suitable, and how much their dowries might be. As the day goes on, conversations begin. Fathers and uncles approach one another discreetly, asking questions about daughters, family backgrounds, and financial expectations. Mothers and aunts exchange appraising glances, measuring the beauty, modesty, and demeanor of young women. In hushed tones, dowry sums are mentioned, some modest, others shockingly high. Behind every negotiation lies a mix of love, pride, and calculation. The dowry system is complex. To outsiders, it may seem like buying and selling, but within the Kalderash community, it is framed as respect, proof that a bride's value is recognized and honored. The money does not simply enrich her parents. It ensures she enters marriage with dignity, her virginity intact, and her family's honor preserved. For men, paying a high dowry is a statement of pride. It shows they can afford to provide for their wife and future children. For women, it is proof that they're desired and valued. Maria watches as her uncle Mitko is approached by another man, a father from a nearby town. They shake hands, exchange polite greetings, and begin the delicate dance of negotiation. The man asks about Maria's age, her education, her skills. Mitko responds carefully, emphasizing her good reputation, her school certificate, her modesty. When the subject of dowry arises, voices lower. Numbers are exchanged in whispers. Maria pretends not to notice, but inside she feels her stomach tighten. Her future is being discussed like a business deal, while she stands a few steps away, pretending to laugh at her cousin. In another corner of the fairground, a young girl bursts into tears. Her parents had hoped for a high offer, but the negotiations have collapsed. The family leaves quickly, their disappointment visible, the mother consoling her daughter with whispered promises that next year will be better. Scenes like this are common. Not every girl finds a match, and not every family agrees on price. For some, the market is a success. For others, it is a wound that reopens each year. And yet, for many young Roma men and women, the bride market is also a social event. Between the negotiations and the tense conversations, there is music, dancing, and laughter. Young couples sneak glances, exchange shy smiles, and sometimes even manage a brief word or two. For a few hours, traditions and personal desires blur. Some marriages are arranged formally here. Others begin with nothing more than a glance across the fairground, leading to months of secret conversations and eventual unions. As evening approaches, the atmosphere grows more intense. Parents finalize negotiations, money changes hands discreetly, and some girls leave the market already promised to a future husband. Others leave in silence, uncertain of what their future holds. Maria, too, leave the fairground that evening with mixed feelings. She received attention. Her uncle spoke to several families, but no final agreement was made. For her, this means another year of waiting, another year caught between hope and tradition, longing and duty. For her cousin Tanny, the day was equally bittersweet. He enjoyed the music, the excitement, the energy of the event, but he also realized how limited his future choices are. For all his dreams of modern life, he too will be bound by the same traditions, the same negotiations, the same invisible rules that govern the lives of his people. The bride market is more than just a fair. It is a mirror of Roma society, reflecting its struggles, its values, and its contradictions. It is a place where old customs collide with modern dreams, where money and love intertwine, and where the future of young men and women is decided in a single day. The next morning, Maria wakes up tired, her mind still replaying the faces she saw and the conversations she overheard at the bride market. She doesn't speak much at breakfast, but inside, questions are piling up. Why should her worth be measured in money? Why should her future be determined not by her heart, but by negotiations whispered between men? Her aunt, Rositza, notices her silence. Like many Roma women of her generation, Rositza married young at 16 in a union arranged by her parents. She remembers her own bride market vividly. The bright dress, the loud music, the nervous glances. She remembers how she cried on her wedding night, not out of fear of her husband, but because she realized she had lost a little freedom she had known. Today, she looks at Maria and wonders whether things will ever change for the younger generation. But the truth is, change comes slowly for the Calderash. Their traditions are centuries old, passed down through families who lived as nomads for generations, moving across Europe, facing persecution and discrimination wherever they went. In Bulgaria, as in much of Eastern Europe, the Roma remain a marginalized group. Many live in poverty, in neighborhoods with poor infrastructure, limited schooling, and high unemployment. Prejudice against Roma communities is widespread. Employers often refuse to hire them, landlords deny them housing, and mainstream society sees them through the lens of stereotypes. Beggars, thieves, outsiders. Within this context, traditions like the bride market become more than just rituals. They are survival mechanisms. By marrying within the community, the Kalderash preserve their identity. By demanding dowries, they ensure that daughters are respected and families compensated. By keeping strict control over girls, they protect them from outside judgment and exploitation. To outsiders, these customs may seem oppressive. To insiders, they are a shield against a world that has always rejected them. Maria knows this history, but still, she feels torn. On one hand, she loves her family, her community, her people. On the other, she dreams of something different. She wants to study, to work, to travel beyond the borders of her small town. She scrolls through her phone at night, watching videos of other young women her age living lives of freedom, going to university, working in offices, meeting friends at cafes. She wonders, could she ever have that life? Or is her destiny already sealed? Her cousin Tanny faces a different struggle. He wants to respect tradition, but he is fascinated by the modern world. Online, he chats with girls outside the Roma community, enjoying the thrill of secret conversations. But he knows he cannot pursue them. His parents would never allow him to marry a non-Kalderash. To do so would mean breaking the invisible walls of his culture, bringing shame not only on himself but on his entire family. And so, Tanny lives two lives, one online, free and open, the other at home, constrained by expectations. The story of Maria and Tanny is echoed across Bulgaria and beyond. In towns and villages across Eastern Europe, young Roma face the same conflict. They live at the crossroads of two worlds, one bound by centuries-old customs, the other rushing forward into modernity. The bride market itself has faced criticism from outsiders for years. Human rights groups condemn it as outdated, even exploitative. Media reports sensationalize it as a place where girls are sold. Bulgarian authorities have occasionally tried to intervene, but with little effect. For the Kalderash, outside interference only deepens their sense of separation. They insist the market is not about exploitation, but about community, tradition, and honor. To them, it is no more unusual than arranged marriages that exist in many cultures around the world. Yet even within the Roma community, voices of dissent are growing. Some young women refuse to attend the market. Some families, especially those who have become more educated or prosperous, allow their daughters to choose their husbands without formal negotiations. Others adapt to tradition, treating the market more as a festival, a place for young people to meet, dance, and socialize, while still maintaining the rituals of new clothes and family gatherings. But change is slow, and for every girl who avoids the market, many more still find their futures decided there. Maria, now 21, knows she cannot delay forever. Each year that passes makes it harder for her to marry. Younger girls, fresher faces, attract higher offers. A girl who remains unmarried by her mid-20s risks being labeled undesirable. For women like her, time is not a friend. It is a countdown. Her cousin Tanny sees the same pressure from the other side. His parents remind him that, soon, he must take a wife. They speak of families they know, daughters who would be good matches, dowries that could strengthen their household. Tanny listens respectfully, but inside he dreams of choosing for himself, of falling in love, of marrying not for money or tradition, but for connection. Their struggles highlight a deeper truth. For the Kalderash, marriage is not simply about two individuals. It is about two families, two clans, two networks of relationships. It is a transaction that binds communities, settles disputes, and creates alliances. To reject tradition is not just an act of independence. It is an act of defiance against the entire social fabric. This is why the bride market continues, year after year, despite criticism, despite modern influences, despite the private doubts of young men and women like Maria and Tanny. It is more than a fair. It is a declaration that the Kalderash remain who they have always been, distinct, united, and fiercely protective of their way of life. But beneath the music and the laughter, beneath the colorful dresses and the whispered negotiations, there is tension. A growing number of young Roma are questioning whether the tradition still serves them or whether it chains them to a past they no longer wish to live. The story of the Kalderash Roma cannot be understood without looking back into history. For centuries, the Roma have lived as outsiders in Europe. Their exact origins remain debated. But most historians agree that the Roma people migrated from northern India around 1,000 years ago, slowly moving westward through Persia, the Balkans, and into Central and Eastern Europe. Along the way, they developed unique dialects, customs, and trades, adapting to the lands they passed through while keeping a sense of their distinct identity. In Bulgaria, the Kalderash, whose name comes from the word for cauldron or pot, because many were skilled tinsmiths and metalworkers, established themselves as one of the more respected subgroups of the Roma. Their craft gave them mobility, a way to earn money even when other doors were closed. They traveled from village to village, repairing pots and pans, offering services in exchange for food, shelter, or coin. Over time, they built a reputation not just as craftsmen, but as a people who survived by their own hands, without relying on outsiders who often rejected them. But survival came at a price. Across Europe, Roma were persecuted for centuries. They were enslaved in the Balkans until the 19th century, forced into unpaid labor and denied basic rights. During the Second World War, they were targeted alongside Jews by Nazi Germany. Tens of thousands of Roma were murdered in camps and mass killings, a tragedy the Roma called parajmos, meaning the devouring. Even after the war, discrimination did not end. In communist Bulgaria, Roma communities were pressured to assimilate. Their language was discouraged, their traditions mocked, their nomadic lifestyle restricted. The Kalderash resisted as best they could. They held tightly to their traditions, seeing them as shields against a hostile world. Marriage within the group was one of those shields. By marrying among themselves, they ensured the survival of their culture, their language, their values. Dowries, too, were part of the survival strategy. In a society that often denied them education and opportunities, wealth had to circulate within the community. A dowry was not just money changing hands. It was a form of security, a way to strengthen alliances and keep resources in Roma families rather than letting them slip into the outside world. And so, what may seem to outsiders as an outdated or oppressive practice is, for the Kalderash, a form of resilience. It is a reminder that their culture endured centuries of rejection and still survives. Yet, resilience comes with its own cost. For young women like Maria, resilience means limited freedom. Her education ended early. Her choices are few. Even the freedom to walk to a cafe alone is seen as dangerous, because every step outside the family's control risks dishonor. For young men like Tani, resilience means obligation. His role as heir is already decided. His marriage must reinforce family ties. His choices are narrower than they seem. The contradiction is sharp. On the one hand, the Kalderash take pride in being modern in certain ways. They buy cars, build houses, use smartphones, and follow global fashion. On the other hand, their most intimate traditions remain tied to a past where survival depended on caution, discipline, and control. This contradiction is visible in the bride market itself. To an outsider, it might appear as a colorful festival, with music, laughter, and bright dresses. To insiders, it is serious, almost sacred. Every glance, every negotiation, every whispered number is part of a system that stretches back generations. For some families, the market is still a joyful occasion, a chance to celebrate their daughters, to connect with relatives, to strengthen bonds. For others, it is a source of stress and pain, a reminder of the limited choices and heavy burdens placed on their children. But beyond the traditions, there is another story, that of discrimination in the present day. In modern Bulgaria, Roma communities remain some of the poorest and most excluded. Many live in segregated neighborhoods on the edges of towns, often without proper infrastructure. Children face bullying in schools. Adults are often rejected when they apply for jobs. Police harassment is not uncommon. The stereotype of Roma as beggars or criminals continues to poison relations with the majority population. This constant discrimination feeds into the cycle. If a Roma girl tries to break free, to study, to work outside her community, she faces not only pressure from her family, but also rejection from the wider society. If a Roma boy tries to marry outside his group, he risks alienation from his clan and suspicion from outsiders. And so, the walls remain, reinforced both from within and without. Maria knows these walls well. She has dreamed of leaving, of studying further, of perhaps becoming a teacher. But she has also seen how others who tried were pulled back. A cousin who left school to work in the city returned home after months of insults and low pay. A friend who married outside the community now lives isolated, cut off from her family. Maria fears the same fate. For Tanny, the struggle is quieter but no less real. Online, he scrolls through social media, watching other young Bulgarians live lives that seem carefree. Vacations at the beach, parties, selfies with friends. He laughs, he clicks like, but deep down he knows his reality is different. He cannot post pictures with girls from outside the Roma community. He cannot openly pursue the friendships he craves. His future is already mapped by others. And yet, both Maria and Tanny are part of a generation that is changing. Quietly, slowly, cautiously, young Roma across Bulgaria are beginning to push back. Some insist on finishing school, no matter the cost. Some negotiate with their parents for more freedom. Some, especially those who move to larger cities, experiment with living outside traditional rules. It is not a revolution, not yet, but it is a shift, a whisper of change carried by each new generation. In the same town where Maria and Tanny live, there's another young woman named Christina. At just 17, she is already considered ready for marriage. Her parents, proud but anxious, have prepared her dress for the next bride market. Christina is shy, quiet, and dreams of becoming a nurse. She studies medical books in secret, imagining a life where she could work in a hospital, helping others. But when she speaks of these dreams, her mother shakes her head. A husband first, she says, then we will see. For Christina, the bride market is not just an event. It is a crossroads. One path leads to the life her parents expect, another to the dreams she quietly holds in her heart. Nearby, there is Stefan, a young man of 23. He has been married for 3 years, but he speaks with a sense of regret. His bride was chosen for him, her dowry negotiated quickly. At the time, he accepted it without question. It was tradition, and he wanted to please his family. But now, he admits, he feels trapped. I did not know her well, he says. We were strangers who became husband and wife in one night. His words reveal the silent struggles of many young Roma men who conform to custom, but later realize the weight of living with someone chosen not by love, but by obligation. These stories highlight the complex layers of the bride market. It is not simply about tradition, nor simply about oppression. It is about people caught between loyalty to their families and a desire to shape their own destinies. And when we step back, the Calderash tradition is not unique in its essence. Across the world, arranged marriages have long histories. In South Asia, families still play central roles in selecting spouses, with dowries or bride prices exchanged as part of the process. In the Middle East, honor and family reputation remain deeply tied to marriage choices. Even in Western societies not so long ago, marriages were often less about romance and more about property, alliances, and stability. What sets a Roma practice apart is its visibility. The bride market is public, loud, and ritualized. It is a stage where the private negotiations of marriage become a communal spectacle. To outsiders, it appears shocking, even archaic. But to those inside, it is no stranger than the countless quiet negotiations that take place behind closed doors in other cultures. Still, comparisons cannot erase the struggles faced by young Roma. In communities where education levels are low and opportunities scarce, marriage becomes one of the few certainties. For girls like Maria and Christina, the bride market is not just about finding a husband. It is about survival. A good marriage can mean financial security, social respect, and a safer future. A bad one can mean years of hardship, isolation, even violence. And here lies another layer often hidden beneath the surface, the risks of early marriage. Many Roma girls marry in their mid-teens, sometimes as early as 14 or 15. Health experts warn of the dangers of such unions. Young mothers face complications in childbirth, lack of education limits their opportunities, and cycles of poverty are reinforced. NGOs working with Roma communities argue that ending child marriage is essential for breaking this cycle. Yet, tradition resists, and families insist that early marriage protects their daughters from dishonor. For the Calderash, honor remains everything. A girl who is seen as too free, who talks to boys without supervision, or who is rumored to have lost her virginity outside marriage, risks being considered worthless in the eyes of her community. Families guard their daughters fiercely, not only out of love but out of fear. This is why girls like Maria are rarely seen outside family gatherings. This is why Christina studies her medical books in silence, not daring to speak of her dreams too loudly. At the same time, there are stories of hope, of change. In larger cities like Sofia and Plovdiv, some Roma families are beginning to allow their daughters to finish school, even attend universities. These girls often return home as role models, showing others that education and tradition can sometimes coexist. Some parents quietly begin to accept marriages based on love rather than pure negotiation. The shifts are small, but they signal a future where Roma identity might survive without such rigid constraints. And yet, the question remains, how much can change without breaking the fabric of community? For the Kalderash, every tradition is a thread in a larger tapestry. Remove too many threads, and the whole may unravel. This is their fear, their hesitation, their resistance. Maria, Christina, Tanny, Stefan, each of them lives at the intersection of history and modernity, caught in a struggle far larger than themselves. Their lives are stories of individuals, but together they form a narrative of a people balancing on the edge of change, torn between the way of the past and the pull of the future. The bride market begins early in the morning. By sunrise, families are already on the move. Cars rumble along the narrow country roads leading to the fairground, their horns honking, Roma music blaring from speakers tied to windows. Some families arrive in small groups, others in long convoys of vehicles decorated with ribbons and flags. Children lean out of windows, waving, laughing. For one day each year, this dusty patch of land becomes the heart of the Kalderash world. As families set up, the market comes alive. Stalls sell food, roasted meats, fried pastries, sweet cakes. Musicians gather in clusters, playing violins, accordions, and drums. The air fills with the sharp, vibrant notes of Roma songs, carrying both joy and melancholy. Elders greet one another with firm handshakes, exchanging blessings and small talk. Young men stand in groups, adjusting their shirts, combing their hair, glancing toward the girls. And the girls, the focus of the day, step out in their finest dresses. Sequins sparkle in the sunlight. Skirts shimmer in bright colors, and every detail, from shoes to earrings, is meant to catch the eye. By mid-morning, the negotiations begin. Fathers and uncles discreetly circle one another. They speak in low voices, testing the waters. How old is she? Has she finished school? Is she hard-working, modest, respectful? Behind these polite questions lies the true subject, the dowry. Numbers are whispered, raised, lowered, tested like bids in an auction. For some families, the sums are modest, a few thousand lev. For others, the stakes are higher, tens of thousands, sometimes even more. Each amount carries meaning. A higher dowry suggests greater honor, greater pride, greater value. The girls stand nearby, pretending not to notice. They laugh with cousins, they sip sodas, they check their phones. But inside, their hearts race. They know their futures are being decided just a few steps away. One smile too many, one laugh too loud, one rumor whispered by another girl. All of it can change the outcome. Around noon, the music grows louder. Dancing begins. Boys step forward, showing off with bold moves. Girls join cautiously, swaying, smiling, their eyes darting between the dance and their watching families. It is one of the few moments where young men and women can interact openly under cover of music and movement. For some, it is thrilling, a stolen chance to lock eyes, to feel noticed. For others, it is nerve-wracking, every step a test of balance between tradition and self-expression. By afternoon, tension fills the air. Some negotiations collapse. Voices rise, disagreements flare. A father shakes his head. A mother pulls her daughter away. The family leaves quickly, disappointed. For others, the outcome is more joyful. A handshake, a smile, a discreet exchange of money. A daughter is promised, a son secured. The crowd seems to shift, whisper spreading. She is taken. That family made an agreement. The dowry was high. For girls like Maria, the day ends in uncertainty. No final deal is struck. She returns home with her family, her dress now heavy, her feet sore, her mind swirling. Another year has passed. Another year of waiting. For Christina, the outcome is different. She leaves a market promise to a young man she barely knows. Her parents relieved, her future sealed. For Tanny, the day is both exciting and sobering. He danced, he laughed, he dreamed. But he also realized that his own turn is coming sooner than he may wish. As the sun sets, the fairground quiets. The music fades. The food stalls pack away. The cars roll out one by one. What remains is dust in the air and a sense of finality. For some families, joy. For others, disappointment. For all, the way of tradition continues. And yet, beneath the ritual, beneath the negotiations, something else lingers. Questions. Questions whispered in the minds of the young, in the private thoughts of girls like Maria and boys like Tanny. Questions about choice, about freedom, about the meaning of honor in a modern world. Because the bride market is not only about marriage, it is about identity. It is about survival. It is about a community that has endured centuries of hardship, holding on to its ways as both shield and anchor. But it is also about a generation caught between two worlds, the past they inherit and the future they dream of. The Calderash continue to gather, year after year, repeating a ritual that binds them together. To outsiders, it may look strange, even shocking. To insiders, it is life, it is history, it is family. But beneath the surface, change stirs quietly. In the whispers of young girls with secret dreams, in the glances of young men searching for something more, in the slow, hesitant steps toward a future where honor and freedom might coexist. And so, the story of the Roma bride market is not just about one day in Bulgaria. It is about the timeless struggle between tradition and change, between duty and desire, between the weight of the past and the pull of the future. For Maria, for Christina, for Tanny, for Stefan, for all those who walk the tightrope between loyalty and longing, the bride market will return next year. The dresses will shine again. The music will play. The negotiations will begin anew. But the questions of freedom, of choice, of identity, will not go away. They will grow louder, carried by each new generation. And perhaps one day, those questions will reshape the tradition itself.